told your friend you're not okay? And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away, as you fade away.
Yeah, I'm about to fade away, cause every time I wake up I feel like it's Monday. Something's going wrong with all the chemicals up in my brain. All of a sudden I don't look at anything the same way. Got a buildup of my thoughts sitting in an ashtray. I'm sorry that I'm so inconvenient, okay? Just let me be me and I'll stay out of your way. I can see the way you look at me, I'm such a disgrace. I never really asked to be brought into this place. You wanna love me? Well then baby I have a taste. All the highs and the lows, no you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change I need today. I promise that I've never felt this way. I really hope that you will choose to stay through all the pain.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's
Hey, people. Let's see. Let's wait for some of you, or at least somebody to come in. I don't see anybody yet. All right, sorry about that. I just had to tell my son to lower the volume on my nephew's voice. He's on the phone, he's so loud.
There's 3 people, only 1 person doing a super bad thing. The other 2 people doing the automatic whole.
You guys ever watch that channel, Watch Mojo, Most Amazing Top 10 or Top 5 Scary Videos? Ooh, Dr. Phil, and I'm getting all these notifications. I keep forgetting, like it gets, I'm subbed to too, or you subbed to so many things. Wow. Oops. Okay, I'll start without you, Missy. I don't know, Colleen. I have no idea. A lot of people have been saying they're not getting my notifications. So I just posted in Discord and on Twitter. I have no idea. It's weird. I usually have Nun on here with me, but she's busy on the phone right now, so it's just gonna be me tonight. Yeah, like Cool Gamer's always here. And same with a couple other people. That's my son. It's anybody hears it? Yeah, he's playing a game with his cousin. Fortnite, I believe. I might just start anyways, and then everybody else can just kind of. Oh, he's awesome, right? I like him. I forgot his name again.
Hi, I just dished my caseworker and told her how to go.
Well, you didn't have to do that. No, that's more important than this.
No, that lady will sit and talk about everything under the sun, and it's okay.
Oh, she's one of those. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
Gotcha.
has points that she has to get across, and we have to do our like monthly check-in, but it like ends up being into a conversation about world politics and things, and it's like, okay.
Oh my gosh. Costa, that's his name. Costa. I was just talking to Colleen. She's like, "Where is everyone?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm here by myself." That's why I texted you. I'm like, "I'm live if you want to join me."
Well, I've been
Maybe
on the phone
somebody
with her
else
for an
is.
hour. I've already been on the phone with her for
Wow.
an hour, so I'm like, I gotta go eat, which isn't really true, but I'm like, oops, my dinner's not
Yeah,
ready
I
yet,
don't blame
but
you.
it will be.
I don't blame you. I am getting some good news today. I feel bad because you're not for disability. Well, I was paying for cabs out of my purse, and like it's too much. I can't do it, right? Obviously, it's too expensive. So, it was I had mentioned to the cab driver that I was on disability, and he's like, "Well, why don't you get an open medical?" And I'm like, "Well, what the hell is that?" He goes, "Well, we call your worker, and tell her that you've got a lot of appointments in town and that it's far where I live.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost 2 miles away, just to even check my mail." And he's like, "Get that. You'll have to sign some forms and your doctor." It's like, "But do that." So I called yesterday. She actually called me back this morning, and I was luckily on my way to my doctor today, so I had everything filled out. Um, so now I don't have to worry about paying for these stupid cabs because they're costing me a fortune. And then she's like, "Oh, and you can also, if you don't have receipts, you can get the cab company to write something up and be like, yeah, she's taken the cab here and there and blah blah blah." I'm like, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, and we'll reimburse you." It's like,
Yeah, because they
holy.
keep
I was like,
record of all that.
"Well, it's just like it's so easy. It's just for
But
me, but
the
for
thing is,
you,
they don't tell you these things. You have to discover all
no,
this
they
on your
don't."
own. Like when I first
Yes.
got disabled, I was only 29. So because of my
Yeah.
age, I actually had a caseworker that I called up to the local office, and I said, I'm trying to find out what I can get, like help wise, because I can't work anymore, blah, blah. And she goes, "Well, do you have any children?" I said, "No." She's like, "Are you pregnant?" I said, "No." She's like, "Can you get pregnant?" I said, "Excuse me?" She wanted me to get
Wow.
pregnant to get benefits. I'm like, you really are deluded to think that I would bring a child into the world just to get benefits. I'm like, I'm not
That's
that deceptive.
disgusting.
I'm like, she's like, "But that's
Wow.
where a lot of people get their benefits is through children." I'm like, no. She's like, "Well, your age is a factor." I'm like, "Well, excuse me for
Wow.
becoming disabled early in life. It wasn't my plan, you know."
That's sick.
So
And yet
I
there
had
is
to
a lot of
research
people
it.
that do that.
It is, and I had to research it, and then like I didn't find out about a lot of stuff that I qualified for. And then like
Yeah.
there's these waiver programs for the state that I live in. I'd been on it. It took me what 15 years before I even found out about the program, and then that was 3 years wait to be on that program before I even qualified for that program. It's like, but they don't
Wow.
want you to know. And the worst part
Well,
about it,
yeah.
it's like it's all government money that's supposed to help people, but they won't
Yeah.
volunteer this information to you.
No, they won't. And I don't
I,
like that at all. It bothers me. There's like then there's another one she told me, which I just remember now, that they can also help with my internet bill and my phone bill. I was like, "What?"
yeah, I told you
Okay.
that too. I thought I told you that too. There's a $30
I forgot.
off a month. I get that too. I get that credit on my
I
on
get
my
50.
phone
Well,
bill.
I don't yet, but I have to talk to her again because I forgot, but 50 for my phone, and then because my like I make money from Google, and I need this laptop, I'm paying like almost
Extra.
well, I'm paying like 145 a month, 150 for internet. It's ridiculous, but she's like, "Yeah, we can possibly help with that." She's like, "Just ask." So I don't know. I'm just gonna keep asking. Help me. 'Cause oh my gosh,
But isn't it
it's
bad
crazy.
that they have these programs out there and they're set up within your government, and then the only way you is if you dig for them to find them. Like it
Yeah,
shouldn't be like up front and say, "Hey, if you're in this situation, here is this available and this available." Instead, you got to go dig for them.
yeah. Like, I remember when I first moved here, I had nothing. Um, my son's dad took everything, so I left with nothing. My son didn't even have a damn bed and
Yep.
had a mattress on the floor, and I remember asking this is when I was on, government assistance, And I said, is there any way I can, I don't know, get money for a box spring and I'll pay you back monthly or whatever? And she's like, well, go look for one and take a picture, give me the quote for it, blah, blah, blah. And I did. And she freaking said no. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? So why did you make me do all that? And it was only 80 bucks. And she's nope. And then I find out that she actually was supposed to give me that, just like she tried to dick me around on the fridge stove. In the place that I'm in right now, they don't have a fridge stove. So I had to buy one on my own. I didn't have that money. I had nothing when I came here. So they were supposed to help me. I was in here for 5 days before she even said yes to getting me that fridge stove. I had to look for the cheapest ones, which whatever, it's not my money. So I did, but I didn't go over her head and contacting her manager and saying like, look, I know I'm entitled to this. I've been told I'm entitled to this. How am I gonna eat? How am I gonna cook? Like, you wanna explain that to me? You guys have to provide that if you put they are the ones who put me in this house. So anyways, I told her and she goes, I don't understand why this hasn't gone through. You've been waiting 5 days now? I said, yeah, like I figured I'd get it the next day. She's like, well, it should have been in the next day. The paperwork should have been put in the day you asked and it should have arrived the next day. And it didn't. She goes, I will be talking to her. And she did, and I ended up getting it the next day. I was like,
But,
oh my God. So I
but
don't know what she had against me, but
that's
she
the
would not give
problem
me
with these
anything.
people. They get in these positions, and either you get like I have I mean the caseworker I was talking to, she's nice. She just likes to talk. But the one I had before was awesome. Like she would
Yeah.
have my back 100%. This one I've only met once in person in a year, which is really kind of wrong because they're supposed to see me like at least every 3 months in person. But
Yeah.
I've only met her once since she took over a year ago, and it's like that's the only time she checks in on me. You know, the only time she ever deals. And the program that I get $750 for the program. We're only using $250 of that budget, and the rest goes back to the
Yeah.
government. I'm like, why even allot 750 if I'm not allowed to use any of the rest of it for anything else?
That's bullshit.
Yeah, but it took me
Wow.
3.5 years to get that waiver approved. Even it's
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah. It takes forever. A lot of it too, I find, is if the person even likes you.
yeah,
Like my
that's what I
last
mean. You have to
lawyer,
have someone in their corner. If they're not in your corner, you're screwed.
exactly, and that's not right at all. They're there to do their damn job. That's what they're supposed to do. But I remember my first lawyer, I can't remember his name. 2 years. I talked to him once in 2 years, and I kept asking about my case and asking and asking and asking and checking up, and I would never hear anything. Then all of a sudden, I got this one call from the lawyer I just had, and he's like, "I'll be your lawyer. Um, Call me at this number if you need anything." Blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, right." That's what I'm thinking because of my last one, right? Well, he's like, and I call him. I said, "When did this go in?" I can't remember which date, and then I said something like, I'm just following up to see how it is. And he's like, "Oh, we've got a screen recording appointment for next week." I'm like, "What? Really? Holy hell." And then we ended up not doing that because the other side didn't even tell him we had an appointment that day. So I was like, "Oh my," like stupid shit like that. So I had to wait a few months and then we got in to see them in person. What are you
Yeah.
eating? You did not eat all that, did you? I can't have any now. You ate it with your fork and you're sick. That was my bread thing that I never got to try. They're grounded. Okay.
He should be eating really, really quietly since you can hear now.
Yeah. Not taking crap out of my stove. I can hear that. Yeah, I can hear everything. You can go blow ass somewhere else. Bye. It's disgusting. You're not walking around and pushing birds out. Like, go away. Disgusting. Did you watch my video earlier?
Yeah, I did. I was laughing.
Oh my God. I seriously thought he was kicking the shit out of my stove. It was a ping pong.
And what I pictured was your son bending over laughing so hard and can't breathe because he's like, Mom, it's
He
not that what
was.
you think. You're like, oh my
He
God, I was
was. I'm
laughing.
like, stop. Stop. He's like, I can't breathe. And he's on the floor, he's all huddled over. And I was like, I'm telling you, I can hear you. He's like, no. And like my dog was scratching at his door. Normally I would never hear that, but now I know why, because he stole my pudding, little bastard. There's enough for two of us, but he's sick. So he stuck his fork in it and just, no, 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 I can't have any now. I've never had
Yeah.
bread pudding.
It's good.
I'm gonna try it. Yeah, I was told it was good. It smelled delicious, but I can't touch it now.
I used to make it at the restaurant that I worked at, and
Yeah.
it like was the fastest thing that went off the food bar. It was like it was a steak and chicken buffet that my sister was a manager of,
Yeah.
and I trained all the different employees there. And one of my thing was the bakery, and I did the like all the baked goods, and I used to make it, and like you couldn't keep it on the buffet long enough. Like people would come up like as soon as you put it down, like even before you put it down, they'd be like eating. I'm like, okay, we only have like 5 pans, guys. Like if you're gonna go through it in 10 minutes, it's gonna be kind of hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's really good if you put caramel glaze on it. Like you melt caramels and then you glaze it on top. That was always good.
Yeah. It looked delicious. It smelled delicious. Oh well, I guess I'm gonna have to whenever I go downtown again. I got it from a shop, which is really, really expensive. The only reason why I went in there is to get like a coffee or something because I didn't have one this morning and I only slept like I think almost 4 hours and I was just really tired. I couldn't wake up. So I went in there to get one. Then I seen that there was bread pudding. I'm like, I've never had that. I want that. And it was all homemade. Like they bake it all right there. So I was supposed to heat it up for after dinner for dessert. The little bastard saw it and ate it. I love what Colleen says. She's like, I'm in New York and retired. I'm going for surgery and I'm my husband's full caregiver. I'm in the black hole of I can't get help to take care of him unless I pay for it myself. I can't afford
Ex-
that. Yeah, like what do you
exactly.
do? What do you see? This is where the government should come in and help you. I'm sorry, but not KJ, help you. He's got two parents that are capable of looking after him. And I would imagine he's not as disabled as your husband clearly needs.
For Colleen, there's two things I can maybe help her with. Um, like every state's different, but every state has what is Medicaid or whatever. And depending on what kind of illness he has and what the severity of it is, and you can get doctors like testimony or authorization as to how sick he is and what kind of care you can apply through your state. And it's not even based on age, it's just based on whatever the disability of their ailment is. And the state should come in and offer you care that will cover visits like hospital visits and medical business, visits, whatever, like if you have to go to the hospital or emergency care, even if you're still working, like if you can't provide full-time care for him.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that she should have help. I mean, how come?
But you just have
I
to
mean,
find it on yourself. That's the thing, is that they don't tell
yeah,
you, and they won't tell you, which is really sad. Like one
yeah.
of the workers my sister has at the restaurant she has, they one of her workers' husbands got sick, and she went to find out what she could qualify, and they wouldn't tell her. So I gave her all the numbers that I had, and I told her, and she called, and then he qualified for everything under the sun, even though the regular DHS office was saying no, he qualified for nothing.
Oh my God. Oh, that's too much income for Medicaid. He does have an aide that comes 2 times a week to bathe him. There's got to be something they can do because if you are going to have surgery, you're not going to be able to take care of him.
Yeah, but even with the Medicaid, they can't just go based off of your income though. He's the one with the disability.
Says we pay for Medicare and private insurance. Well, then, yeah, they should be entitled, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Will you do me a favor, Nikki? Write down her name, and then I'll do some research online and see what I can come across for her state. She's in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I have to scour hundreds and hundreds of information, I will.
Okay. Yeah, she's good at research, Colleen. She'll find it, trust me. Before I get in the book, I wanted to tell you something too. So I was on Reddit. I put my video on there, and somebody had told me, I don't know how I don't remember this or how I don't know it. Apparently, somebody unalived themselves, and it was one of the dancers for 7M, and KJ helped with that Unalive.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah, she contributed to it. So I've been talking about it, and I'm like, why don't I remember that? How do I not know that? Erin, EKC, she covered it. So I don't know why I can't remember. But then again, stuff like that, that's like horrible.
Get block out.
I like block it up. Yeah, I don't even mean to. Like now that I just said that, I now just remembered going to the vet and seeing that puppy. I haven't thought about it since that day on here when I cried. It just blocks it out. I can't handle that shit. I can't.
Well, I mean, she doesn't care. She goes after their sponsors. She makes false statements. She accuses people of all sorts of things. And
Yeah.
then when something tragic happens, where's her reporting on that? I mean, if she's so
There isn't.
invested
Yeah.
and she says that they're all a cult and they're brainwashed, why isn't she reporting that this person unalived themselves and then blame it on the cult? No, because she's part of the problem.
She is. And she definitely contributed to it from what I'm learning. I'm going to have to verify that. That's why I haven't made a video or anything on it. I need to make sure because I'm like her. I want to make sure I got my facts straight. So I don't know if you want to help me see what dancer it was. Oh, and another thing, I just got a message today from from a person that I know that has a friend that is a dancer that's in the dance field and actually knows 7M and the dancers. And they
Mm-hmm.
like talk and work together. So I was offered to interview her on my channel and talk about 7M, see what she knows, and basically tell Katie to put up or shut up. So I was very excited. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I would love to poke her brain and ask her, how it really is. What do you think? Is it a cult? Is it not a cult? Is this really that bad? Well, I've got lots of questions. So I don't know when I'm going to do it, but this all happened today. So I need to research that dancer. I need to find that out. If you want to help me with that, you're good at researching better than I am.
Yeah, I will.
Too much to do in a day too. Like I'm always doing something. I just mopped. I was going to cancel tonight's live. Then I'm like, no, I don't care. I'm going to do it because I started sweating and my blood pressure went up really bad. I was like, oh, I can't even mop my house. Like really? Anyways.
The other thing I was going to say about the 7M thing with Katie, when she made all these claims and everything, and but she wasn't backing up with any fact, and now she's claiming journalistic privilege, then in journalism there is an ethics clause, and there is, if it puts someone in harm or potential danger or something, that kind of like oversees or rides that. So I don't know
Yeah.
how she thinks that if it comes out that she had a hand in it or this person did this to themselves because of the things that she was saying, that it won't come back
Yeah.
on her.
I need to find out about this dancer. I really want to know what was involved, I don't know their name either. The person I was speaking with didn't give me personal information, so they told me about it, but we have to like kind of poke around and find for ourselves, which is fine because I'm glad they didn't because it's
Well, you don't
not
want to be
well,
intrusive to the family either.
no, I don't plan on contacting them. I'm not going to pull a Katie Joy and be like, hey, so I hear that your daughter unalived herself. Do you want to talk about it? No, who am I? I'm not nobody. I never do that. No, I'll do my own research. And well, like I said, I would love you to help me. You're very good at it. Figured out kind of what happened.
Okay.
I'm not a reporter and I'm not a journalist. So I'm not going to go around asking people and talking. That is the most disrespectful fucking thing to do. I would never do that. No. New
Katie
York
Joy is
sucks.
the most disrespectful person ever.
I just can't believe her getting away with this and that and this and that every single day. I actually had somebody on Twitter today defend Katie in that video that Instagram live she did in the yellow shirt with the fucking fingers. They actually defended her against me.
What
Um
defense in God's green earth could that be?
yeah,
I don't know.
I'm just like,
Normal
wow. So I
reporters don't
blocked
go
them.
around giving visuals on that, like I've never
No,
seen a reporter on the national news or an interview or a special show on CBS, ABC, or NBC do that. I'm like, I don't
no. You don't
understand.
see a journalist or a reporter cussing, getting hammered every night, going live and just shooting your mouth off with false allegations. Like she really accused Robert Chin of running people off the road and killing them,
And
waterboarding,
waterboarding. Yeah, waterboarding. That's what it said.
starving them, everything. Like this person says to me, yeah. I mean, it gave us all goosebumps, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, it does matter. That was the whole fucking point of my video. And if you're gonna sit there and shit on me for what she did, try and I don't even know what to say. Like, try and what? Make it okay what she did? Hell no. Anyways, I blocked the person. I had to block 4 people today. 4 people. It's a troll group on Twitter. Yeah, they gone.
You want? I don't go. I have Twitter, but I don't use it, and the reason I don't use it is because it's a cesspool, is what I think it is. But
It is unless you block the people that are trolls. And I
I'd have,
blocked. I'm pretty sure I got them all.
but you know how I talk, and I'm pretty blunt, and I can't curb the what I want to say kind of thing. So it's just better for me not to say anything, which is really sucky because then I really don't have a chance to chime in. And I really, really, really wanted to chime in today. Adam McIntyre, he had to have his cat put down because he had FIP, and he took a last picture with him before, and everyone on Twitter that's not, a fan of his or whatever, or defends Colleen Ballinger, decided that they were going to tell him, "You don't deserve pets. I'm glad he died. I hope your other dogs die. I hope you die." And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, there was like,
Colleen Ballinger's still around.
she's not defending. She's letting her fan group defend her against all of this. But she has not come out since her ukulele video to do anything to combat any of this or say any of this. She's just let it kind of just lay there. But she's letting all her fans do it. But to attack somebody who just lost their cat or their pet
That's
that was part of their family, and then say, "I hope your other animals die tomorrow. I hope you die tomorrow. I hope that why are you so obsessed with Colleen? This is just karma." It's like, oh my God.
That's horrific. Wow. Yeah, I would have said something. I might still say something. I don't care. Like, that's disgusting.
I'd be in Twitter wars with everyone if I said something. I'd be like,
yeah, I know, me too. That's why I calm it down. I usually don't. But these guys all of a sudden just decided that they were gonna shit on me. And it was like, what did I do to you? Yeah, exactly. That's what I did today. I blocked every single one of them. It's I had enough. All this crap surrounding me, I've had it. I really have. All right. So we are on Manson the Race Warrior. If there was a bridge between the family and COINTELPRO, I thought it would probably stem from this basic fact. Charles Manson was a racist. According to Greg Jacobson, Manson sincerely believed that the black man's sole purpose on earth was to serve the white man. Wow. Another member of the family recalled that Manson looked forward to the day when, having survived the apocalyptic race war, he could scratch Blackie's fuzzy head and kick him in the butt and to pick the cotton. Wow. Hey, Jesse, what's up? And at the start of 69, COINTELPRO provoked black militants in LA. Manson's bigotry reached delusional fever pitch. He became convinced, seemingly without a shred of evidence, that the Black Panthers were spying on the family at the Spawn Ranch, planning an attack on him. His paranoia mounting, Manson placed armed guards at every entrance to the ranch, setting lookouts in the mountains with powerful telescopes. His fear self-fulfilling in a way. On July 1st, 1969, during a dispute over drug money in a Hollywood apartment, Manson shot Bernard Lotzapapa Crow, a black drug dealer. According to Helter Skelter, the dealer had told Manson that he was a Panther and that his brothers would come and get Manson at the ranch if he did that. Manson shot Crow in the chest and fled the scene, believing he killed the dealer. Back at the ranch, Manson was sure that Crow's friends were readying their attack. In Bugliosi's account, this contributed to Manson's decision a month later to speed along the race war. By inciting Helter Skelter, the Tate LaBianca murders would sow racial discord. There's I don't know. I will check. I forgot about it. I will check. Yeah, I'm sure I did. Yeah, no worries, Colleen. Take your time, girl. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop. I'm just gonna, because he did send me money for Christmas. I just want to make sure.
That was sweet.
Well, because you have to accept it Oh, I couldn't even get it out now anyways because I think you have to have like mine's like a $20 limit, I think, or 15, something like that. I don't know, I'll see. Peacock.
I like to send it through PayPal so that way YouTube doesn't take 45%.
Yeah. Yep, I got it. Thank you, Jesse. Yeah, it's at the minimum. Okay, I'll have to wait. That's fine. Anyway, thank you.
You have to
Thank you
wait
so
a
much.
minimum.
Pardon?
Is there a minimum on PayPal now?
Yeah, I have to have at least I don't know, 15, I think it is. But that's all right.
Okay, I'll fix that. Hold on.
Yeah. No, we don't have to do that. You're generous
I don't
enough.
care.
You've
I don't
already
care. Hold on.
done.
If I get knocked out, just bring me back in.
Yeah, well, I'll keep an eye this time. All right, I'll continue reading.
Okay.
Just let him in. He wants to cuddle. But Bernard Crowe wasn't a Black Panther, and he survived after Manson shot. Bugliosi even called him to the stand during the trial. Bugliosi chalked it up to misunderstanding on Manson's part, but the more I thought about it, especially in light of what I learned about Quintuple, the more I wondered if there was more to the story. The prosecutor reported that Manson was already frightened of the Black Panthers before the Crow shooting. If Manson was truly scared of the Panthers, the last thing he would have done is to shoot a man whom he believed to be a Panther, a man who'd already told his brothers where Manson lived and made a threat to kill him. True, Manson hoped to launch a race war, but he didn't want to be caught in this crossfire. That was a fate he wished on other whites, but never on himself. Oh no, God forbid, right? Furthermore, Tex Watson's girlfriend and 3 of the Crow's friends have witnessed the shooting. They called an ambulance after Manson's made his getaway. At the hospital, Crow refused to tell the police who shot him. When the police have questioned the 4 witnesses, did Crow even say who they were? Why didn't the police pursue a near fatal shooting with plenty of witnesses, especially when the alleged shooter was a paroled ex-con? That's a good question.
Okay, I send it.
Oh,
And
thank
don't,
you.
and don't yell at me with the mount.
Oh boy, I'm probably gonna yell at you. Thanks, Jesse. That was really sweet of you. And thank you, Nun. So we might never know because Bugliosi didn't clarify any of it in Helter Skelter. Of course not. I'd always considered the Crow shooting inexplicable sideshow in Manson's circus. It took on grander proportions, and I'd learned about the FBI's disinformation campaign against the Panthers. I'm the same place. Less than a week after the Tate murders, further quintuple provocations led to the shootings of 3 more Panthers, one of them fatal. The CIA on domestic soil. In August 1967, the same month, Hoover launched Quintuple. CIA Director Richard Helms inaugurated the agency's aforementioned illegal domestic surveillance program, Chaos. When I read the title of this book, Chaos, I know what chaos means. In the book, that's not what this is.
Mm-mm.
So Chaos, which also employed agents and informants to infiltrate subversive groups and then neutralize them. Wow.
I had no idea either until I read it.
Yeah, I had no clue.
But then again,
Yes,
the government keeps all these secrets and doesn't tell us, so.
Yeah. Wow. Chaos was born of Lyndon Johnson's neuroses. In the summer of 67, the president was convinced that the divided, disorderly America he led couldn't possibly be the product of his own policies. Foreign agents and presumably foreign money must be to blame. He ordered the CIA to prove that the nation's descendants, and especially its anti-war movement, had their origins abroad. Richard Helms compiled, without hesitation, in the 6 years that followed, the CIA tracked thousands of Americans, insulating its information so thoroughly that even those at the top of its counterintelligence division were clueless about its domestic surveillance. KS kept tabs on 300,000 people. Wow. More than 7,000 of them American citizens. The agency shared information with the FBI, the White House, and the Justice Department. At its peak, KS had 52 dedicated agents, most of whom served to infiltrate anti-war groups. Like their counterparts in the FBI. Undercover, they hoped to identify Russian instigators, although they never found any. With the Interdivision Intelligence Unit, IDIU, a new branch of the Justice Department outfitted with sophisticated computerized databases, they collaborated on a list of more than 10,000 names, all thought to be dangerous activists. The IDIU produced regular sports on these people, hoping to predict their activities. The journalistic Seymour Hersh got wind of chaos late in 1974. He told James Jesus Angleton, the head of CIA counterintelligence, and William Colby, the director of the CIA, that he had a story bigger than Milei about CIA domestic activities. Colby was forced to admit that Hersh's findings were accurate, and Angleton resigned from the agency. The story broke on December 22nd on the front page of the New Yorker Times. Huge CIA operation reported in U.S. against anti-war forces, other dissidents in Nixon years. Not really, Jesse. The stuff that, no, nothing's really going good. Like, my son's sick, my cats have been sick, or my cat has been sick, my dog got sick. I've had to bring them both to the vet. Jack had to go, 3 times? 4? Was it 3 or 4? I think it was 3.
To Colleen, yes.
But I think, yeah, for Jack, I think it was 3 times. I brought my cat once. But I'm gonna have to bring her back because I know she had her paw up again today. I'm like, really? What the fuck? Can I not get a break? Can you guys not get a break? Yes, I agree, Colleen. It definitely is repeating itself. It always does. It always does.
I agree too.
Yeah, my kid's sick. I think that here's some wood. Hopefully it's not true, but I think he has the virus. Yeah, he said, and the reason why I think that's because his whole body hurts, and that's what happened when I had it really bad.
I think my sister has it too.
Yeah, he said, Mom, he's like, my head won't stop pounding, and it feels like my whole body is like being punched. It started in his back, and I said, oh my God, that's exactly how it started with me. But he had COVID before, and it was just a cold. Now he's got, it must be a different strain because this one is kicking his ass. Actually, I had to give him Advil. He never takes medicine.
There's like 3 different new versions out, isn't there?
I think so. I think there's even more. I think there's a lot of strains out there. I'm gonna call the vet tomorrow and let them know. I haven't seen her hold her paw today, so I gotta keep an eye on her. The Church Committee probed the CIA's intelligence activities as a separate government investigation, the Rockefeller Commission, but neither were able to penetrate the agency's veil of secrecy. Since the CIA has no right to operate on American soil, I thought they would be. The program should have brought even more censure than COINTELPRO. Instead, it drew only a response. CIA leadership stonewalled every opportunity, even if they hadn't. Investigators were crippled by the death of information. When Richard Helms had disbanded Chaos before leaving office in 1973, he ordered the destruction of every file pertaining to it. And since the 70s, almost nothing has come out. The operation hardly left a footprint. Oh, I'm sorry, Jesse. My back's been hurting too, though, and I thought it was an infection. So I went to my doctor today, and I'm like, I've had kidney infection before. He's like, yeah, I know, you have everything. I'm like, I know. I'm like, okay, so there's this here, need you to feel this. So now I got to go get an ultrasound done. It's just, I don't know what, it's like it's a gland, but it's like, it's big. And I've always had problems on the side of my saliva gland. I usually get saliva stones in there that I have to get surgery on to get them removed.
My nephew gets those big white stones in the back of your throat.
Yes, oh my God, when it gets clogged, your neck will go out like this because your glands are so swollen.
Yeah, that happened to him a lot when he was a kid.
Yeah, well,
Like,
same here. And then I figured it'd gone away. No, I just got one removed last year. And then I noticed that there's a fairly good sized lump like that right under here. And he told me last time I was there, if it didn't go away, to tell him. So I'm glad I remembered. He said, yeah, we're gonna get an ultrasound on that, see what the hell it is. Then I said my back hurts, and I said I'm used to kidney infections, but kidney infections just don't go away. And my back was hurting for 3 days straight. Then it went away. Then I got it yesterday, and now it's gone again. So, and it's weird because I had that during when I had COVID too, but I don't feel like sickly. I just feel sore. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm sure I'll figure it out. I always do.
they found a lump on the back of my neck, and I was just supposed to go in. They were just gonna um, do a exploratory. They were just gonna check it, and then it turned into me having surgery and biopsy and it being cancer. So make sure you go get that checked.
Well, that's my thought too. But I don't think I think I just have something. I want them to take out the saliva gland. I don't know if you can, but I've already asked that. And I can't remember what the answer was. I know I was told no, but I'm like, just take it out, clean it out, get rid of it, sew it up, something, because I'm going to keep getting these stones. There's something. It doesn't function properly. I had it when I was 15. I had it again when I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 30s. I had it again. These freaking rock things. Like I've had my
And that's
sickness the
awful.
last few weeks. This last 2 weeks, I've had a burst of energy to the point I made a video every day so far. Oh, that's awesome. No, that's really good then. Yeah, my son hasn't went to school since last Tuesday. And he's not going tomorrow either. I'm not sending him. He's not well.
How did you guys do homeschool when you guys couldn't go?
We did it on my laptop. He was in school most of the day, and then he had homework and he did stuff on the computer. They were actually in a virtual classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. He did better on that than he does in school, actually.
I think it's because you can keep their attention longer. They're in a
Well,
more
that and I
relaxed
was
environment.
helping him. Like, I would sit with him and I would help him, and if he had questions, I'd be right there and I'd make sure I know what they were talking about. So I would help him. Like, I wouldn't give him answers or anything, but I would help him through it because he didn't know this, that, or whatever. And he got A's with everything. Now that he's back in school, he's like, because he was out for 2 years. Forgot how the school works. You know what I mean? He's like, I'm used to a computer. I don't know how to write. Like, my God, I was like, poor guy. Yeah, me too, Jesse. I hope everyone does. And it's that time of year when everyone gets sick.
Well, I just convinced my sister she has to go to the doctor tomorrow. So she's like,
Good.
does not go to the doctor. She's like one that does not like to go to the doctor. She puts it off forever. So it's been like 2 weeks. I'm
Yeah.
like, but she has an appointment tomorrow. So I'm like, good.
Yeah, because I would have made one for her. I'm like, I'm assuming you would too. That's what I would do. Oops.
And she's older than me, which is funny. Like I'm
Yeah.
like, but because I was in the healthcare system, I know more. And it's like, I think she's like, dang it, like she can't get away with the same things.
Even if it reams of paperwork had survived, the Rockefeller Commission was hardly willing to press the agency. While the commission made some shocking findings, evidence of wiretaps, bugging, and hidden burglaries, in addition to the extensive record keeping mentioned above, end of the 70s, well after it had disbanded, allegations arose that it had suppressed information. Its chairman, Vice President Nelson Rockefeller, had worked with the CIA in the late 50s. In a memoir, former CIA Director Colby later claimed that President Gerald Ford fired him for refusing to help Rockefeller sabotage his own investigation. What? According to Colby, chaos was so highly classified that even he, the director of the CIA, didn't have access to it. I found it impossible to do much about whatever was wrong with chaos, he wrote. Its super secrecy and extreme criminalization kept me very much on its periphery. In spring of 78, the New York Times revealed that the investigations into chaos had been woefully inadequate. An agent was asked why he hadn't been more forthcoming. He said simply they didn't ask. The true extent of the agency's domestic activities against descendants would probably never be known. The Times declared, but the paper had been able to uncover chaos activities from the late 60s that had targeted the Black Panther Party. Rockefeller's commission failed to reveal that between 150 and 200 CIA domestic files on Black descendants had been destroyed. I wonder why. The Times reported the CIA conducted at least 2 major programs involving the use of American Blacks Panthers, organized by young blacks in the mid-60s, were publicly advocating revolutionary change. Just how successful the CIA was in those alleged activities could not be determined. Winning hearts and minds. Knowing more about chaos and COINTELPRO, I felt that men like Reed Whitson were potentially much more common than I'd anticipated. Always in peripheral, undefined roles, part of the reason that Whitson seemed like such a wild card to me was that he appeared to have walked on the scene from nowhere. An otherworldly man suddenly hobnobbing with the LAPD's top brass. I wanted others who fit that profile to cover up an operation like chaos. The agency needed friends in law enforcement, insiders who could make arrests, or just as important, not make arrests. The most promising but frustrating of my inquiries concerned an LAPD officer named William H. Herman. I could never connect him to Whitson or Manson, but he certainly fit the profile of someone who helped with the counterintelligence actions. When I was deep in the weeds of my chaos research, split between feeling that I was onto something that I was risking my credibility, Herman was a name that came up several times, usually from sources I didn't quite trust or in arcane articles from the alternative press. When I heard about him, what I heard about him, just plausible enough to get me closer to look closer. I'm glad I did. Herman's story hints at how intelligence agencies may have collaborated with the police in Los Angeles. Longtime lieutenant with LAPD, Herman had an unusual background for law enforcement. He had a doctorate in psychology. He specialized in quelling insurgencies. He developed one of the first computer systems to track criminals and predict violent outbreaks in cities. Daryl Gates, the head of the LAPD from 1970 to 1982, hailed him as a genius, praising his technical aptitude in particular. But Herman's work wasn't limited to Los Angeles or even to the United States. My FOIA request to the FBI yielded a collection of redacted documents detailing his extensive employment history. Concurrent with his time in the LAPD, he worked under a contract for a dizzying list of American intelligence and military agencies: the Air Force, the Secret Service, the Treasury Department, the President's Office of Science and Technology, the Institute for Defense Analysis, the Defense Industrial Security Clearance Office, and the Defense Department Advanced Research Projects Agency. Most of his work for these groups remained classified. That's a lot of agencies to be connected to.
For one person.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that
think the
file
project-
with all the redactions, could you imagine what that says if it wasn't redacted?
Yeah. You think these projects wouldn't have left much free time, but Herman piled on even more work, taking leaves of absence from the LAPD to pursue side gigs with defense firms. These had opaque generic names like Electro-Optical Systems, System Development Corps, and Control Data Corps. That's like 8 things.
Mm-hmm.
This supercomputer development from Minneapolis with military contacts relied on Herman's services for 10 years, from 1961 to 71 or so, Herman told the FBI. When the Bureau went to Control Data Corps for a background check, the company claimed that Herman never worked for them. Oh, I hate all this secrecy. You might have guessed, given Herman's long list of government employers, I wondered if his work for these defense contractors could have been a front for the CIA, one of the few agencies that didn't appear on his resume. As usual, official channels were useless. My FOIA request to the CIA for Herman's records yielded the same neither confirm or deny response that Reeves Whitson had. I did find, however, a record of Herman's overseas work, much of which he conducted while still employed with the LAPD. Having spent 4 months in 1967 training Thai police in counterinsurgency tactics, Herman returned to Asia in September 1968 to join the U.S. effort in South Vietnam. Documents from the National Archives in College Park, Maryland, listed him as a scientific advisor to the Army. His responsibility was to train South Vietnamese in paramilitary techniques to deploy against Viet Cong insurgents. None of the records describe those techniques in any detail, but the mere mention of them was enough to make me put a few things together. The dates of Herman's stint in Vietnam, his job description, the professional affiliations, and his training made it abundantly likely that he was working for the CIA project called Phoenix, one of the most controversial elements in the agent's history. Lyndon Johnson had secretly authorized Phoenix in 1968. It was discontinued in early 71. The agency described it as a set of programs that sought to attack and destroy the political infrastructure of the Viet Cong. Inside Vietnam, Phoenix's operatives waged a campaign of terror against the Viet Cong guerrillas, with tactics including the assassination and torture of non-combatants of civilians, non-combative civilians. Really?
Yep.
That's nuts. That's sick. According to a 1971 congressional investigation, the program violated the codes of Geneva Conventions and rivaled the Viet Cong's own terrorism in its mercilessness. Well, what do you expect? During the Senate hearings, a number of Phoenix operatives admitted to massacring civilians, making it appear that the atrocities were the work of the Viet Cong. This is a couple things now that I'm reading that is messed up. Like the stuff that they're doing to cause harm and to make a war.
Kind of like what's going on now.
Yeah, like it's disgusting. Yeah, like Colleen was saying, I think history is repeating itself.
Yep.
A Special Forces soldier, Anthony Herbert, the single most decorated combat veteran of Vietnam, published a best-selling book, Soldier, that detailed typical orders from the Phoenix superiors. They wanted me to take charge of execution teams that wiped out entire families and tried to make it appear as though the Viet Cong had done it themselves. What the fuck? Like, these are legit war crimes, are they not? The rationale was that the Viet Cong would see that other Viet Cong had killed their own and make allegiance with us, the good guys. Their attempts were sometimes even more unhinged. In 1968, CIA scientists at Bien Ho prison outside Saigon surgically opened the skulls of 3 prisoners. Trigger warning. I don't know what I'm about to read next, but it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Sorry.
They,
I had
it's okay.
my sister came in and I had to talk and I muted myself and I couldn't respond. I was going to tell you that.
It's okay. So in 1968, CIA scientists at the Ben Hoa prison outside Saigon surgically opened the skulls of 3 prisoners, implanted electrodes on their brains, gave them daggers, and left them alone in a room. They wanted to shock the prisoners into killing one another? What the fucking shit? When the effort failed, the prisoners were shot and their bodies burned. According to Seymour Hersh's 1972 book, Cover Up Phoenix had committees set up across all 44 provinces of South Vietnam. They kept blacklists of Viet Cong fighters and had strict orders to meet weekly or monthly quota neutralizations. The whole operation relied on computerized indexes. The identity of its CIA leader came to light. But whoever he was there ostensibly as part of the Agency for International Development, AID, later revealed as CIA Front. Herman, of course, was known for his aptitude with computers, and his time in Vietnam coincided almost exactly with Phoenix's operations. The papers I found at the National Archives confirmed that he was AID. I had no way to press him about any of this. He died in 1993. As I had with Whitson, I wondered whether his family could tell me more about him. I found one of his daughters, Cindy, a dog breeder in Spokane, Washington. She invited me to see her. Only a teenager in the 60s, she didn't have any memories of her father's work. But she was confident that much of it had been top secret and that he'd worked for the CIA. He never discussed his work with his family, not even her mother. She was instructed never to talk about their father with anyone, including extended family. She knew he did undercover work, both while he was with the LAPD and afterward. She showed me his passport. Visa stamps chronicled at least 4 trips to Vietnam between 1968 and 70. Among his ID cards was one for the Exuit Nap Vietnam Cong HOA. She also shared several documents confirming Herman's participation in Phoenix. A framed memo from the U.S. Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, dated September 9th, 1968, advised all personnel that Herman was a member of the Pacification Task Force working for Ambassador Comer. Comer, first name Robert, was nicknamed Blowtorch Bob for his take-no-prisoners approach to warfare. He served 15 years in the CIA before arriving to Vietnam to work on Phoenix. According to Senate testimony, he was behind the program's notorious kill quotas. Oh my God. Even Herman's ephemera captivated me. Cindy held onto a photo of dozens of men on an airplane captioned, "Bad guys leaving a bad spot after having been bad." Once he returned from Vietnam, Herman retired from the LAPD after more than 20 years on the force. Embarking on a series of research gigs for various federal agencies, again, all top secret. Hold on, I'm just going to tell my son to stop. I can't hear. Sorry.
Makes you wonder with the CIA. They can't tell their family, they can't tell anybody, but they have all those memories in their head with no way to explain or discuss them or work them out.
Yeah. Again, all top secret. With information from Cindy, a growing pile of press clippings, and the government documents I'd amassed, I tried to piece together Herman's post-retirement projects. Whether he learned in Southeast Asia, he brought it back to LA. Now he's playing opera. I'm gonna kill him.
What opera is he playing?
What the f-
He must be messing with you
Okay,
because you can hear it now.
he's got to be. He's like, fine, I can't play my guitar. I'm gonna play opera. He's my kid, that's for sure.
Makes life
I
more
tried to
fun.
Yeah. I tried to piece together Herman's post-retirement projects, whatever he learned in Southeast Asia. He brought it back to LA. His work in California bore disturbing resemblance to the techniques he honed as part of the Phoenix Project. In 1968, Governor Reagan appointed him to head a new riots and disorders task force dedicated to studying urban unrest and devising ways to prevent future outbreaks of violence.
That one kind of broke my heart because I really liked Reagan when I was in the 80s. I thought he was a pretty good
Yeah, I thought he
president.
was good.
So it kind of like gave me a disillusion, but I guess you don't really know anything about these people, but
Yeah. Herman revealed, maybe by accident, the task force was hardly the research-based enterprise it claimed to be. Herman didn't give many interviews. Sorry. Lost my spot. Herman revealed, maybe by accident, that the task force was hardly the researching enterprise it claimed to be. Herman didn't give many interviews, but when he spoke to London Observer's Charlie Foley in May 1970, he was apparently in a voluble mood. Discussing his work for the task force, he described a program of spying and infiltration for exceeding the studies that the group was committed to. His words sounded as if they'd been lifted from COINTELPRO and Chaos manuals. Both of those operations, of course, were well underway in Los Angeles. Like Governor Reagan and President Johnson, Herman believed that California's student descendants were funded by foreign communists. He told the Observer that he had a secret plan for forestalling a revolution in Canada. Sorry, America. The key to- I'm sorry.
don't condemn the Canadians. Hello, we're bad enough as it is. Don't get you guys involved.
Yeah. The key was to split off those bent on destroying the system of massive dissenters, then following classic guerrilla warfare theory to find means which will win their hearts and minds. This is insane. He called this plan simply Saving America, and it included strategies for deeper penetration by undercover agents into dissenting groups. Such an army agents posing as students and news reporters in a turn worthy of Minority Report. He wanted to use mathematical probability models to predict where violence would erupt. He also called for the use of long-range electronic surveillance devices. If informers had already penetrated any dissenting groups, they would secretly record speeches and conversation. information would be used for and how, Herman didn't say. He spoke of the task force in future tense, making it hard to discern how operational its saving America tactics were. Whatever the case, his brazen claims generated backlash from the left. His daughter showed me a flyer from the Students of Democratic Society depicting him as a pig. Maybe he felt he said too much, or maybe his fears told him to. But a few months later, he gave another more circumspect interview. Talking this time to the Sacramento Bee, he walked some of his more chilling claims about saving America. Herman bridles at an article in the London Observer. The reporter wrote, quoting Herman, "The council could not step up a plan like that. We have a non-operational role. All we can do is review and fund projects suggested by local authorities." Yeah, right. Saving America sounded a lot like Quintipro, which sounded a lot like chaos. They all ran together. In part, it seemed because they'd all shared notes. In June 2002, the San Francisco Chronicle published an investigative series detailing Governor Reagan's secret dealings with the CIA and FBI, all part of his effort to halt what he constructed as a communist-sponsored anti-war movement in California. The Chronicle revealed an internal FBI memo from July 1969, when Herbert Ellingwood, one of the governor's top advisors, visited FBI headquarters to discuss Reagan's plans for the destruction of disruptive elements on California campuses. As Chronicle reported, Ellingwood asked the FBI for intelligence information against protest groups. The FBI had secretly given the Reagan administration such assistance in the past. Of course, my computer's dying. Shit. Where the hell was I? Oh, J. Edgar Hoover himself approved the request. The FBI suggested that the California state government might attack descendants through a psychological warfare campaign. If that's what Reagan wanted, he didn't have to look far. In his own circle of advisors was Herman, the chairman of the Riots and Disorders Task Force, a veteran of Phoenix and a man whose anti-leftist ideas jibbed perfectly with the Reagan administration in Sacramento, to say nothing of the FBI's and the CIA's. In 1978, a congressional committee uncovered evidence that the CIA had operatives in at least one city's district attorney's office in the late 60s. I wondered if a similar situation existed in Los Angeles, and if so, who those operatives might have been. It wouldn't have been too difficult an agency to penetrate. At the time of the Manson murders in 1969, the district attorney of Los Angeles was Evil Younger, whose resume linked him to tons of intelligent work. Decades earlier, he'd been one of the top agents of Hoover's FBI. In 1942, he left the borough to join the Office of Strategic Services. Trained in espionage and counterintelligence techniques, he opted to enroll in law school after the war. In the 50s, he was elected to the bench before becoming Los Angeles District Attorney in 1964. A staunch Republican and a friend of Governor Reagan, he was appointed head of Federal Law and Order Task Force in January 1969, organized by incoming President Richard Nixon to crack down on crime and internal threats to the nation's security. According to the 1974 book, Big Brother and the Holding Company, The World Behind Watergate, the politically ambitious Young advised Nixon to appoint tougher judges, use more wiretaps, encourage space-age techniques and hardware, and support local police with better training and equipment. Younger's subordinates in the DA's office referred to him as the General. In his obituary, the Los Angeles Times, 1989, noted that he was the first prosecutor in America to undertake mass felony prosecutions of college campus demonstrators in the 1960s. He prosecuted students who protested the absence of a Black Studies program at San Fernando Valley State College. People have a right to protest. Like, what the fuck?
But now if you protest, you get arrested.
This is crazy. There is no such thing as freedom of speech. Never
No.
was.
It was all an illusion.
There's no freedom at all in any city, town, village, country, state. This is insane. The November 1969 trial resulted in 20 convictions, a coup for the up-and-coming deputy DA who tried the case, Vincent Bugliosi.
Surprise, surprise.
If the CIA wanted a presence in the Los Angeles DA's office, Younger didn't strike me as someone who'd put his foot down. Nor did his second in command, Lynn Buck Compton, who'd been an LAPD detective before getting his law degree and joining the DA's office. Compton was the lead prosecutor in the trial of Sirhan B. Sirhan for the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy. He'd been a World War II hero. He exploits with the parachute and infantry regiment, the Easy Company, with chronicled in the HBO miniseries Banders. I found a letter that Compton wrote to Herman on March 14th, 1969, 5 months before the Tate LaBianca murders, thanking him for obtaining good advance intelligence, subversives, and militants. The two had served together on the LAPD in the 50s, so I wasn't surprised that they knew each other. I was surprised that Compton had written a note that all but proved that he and Herman were operating behind the remit for the state of California. Neither man had any business gathering advance intelligence on subversives and militants, or on anyone else for that matter. The DA's office was supposed to prosecute crimes, not prevent them, and Herman, in a strenuous correction to the London Observer article, stressed that his role was non-operational. Bullshit. Coda, front page news. I read about chaos and COINTELPRO until I must have sounded to all my friends like a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist, someone who might go off on a long-winded tangent with the threats of the deep state. But the fact that the CIA had become an all-purpose scapegoat, the preeminent symbol of global power, run amok doesn't change the fact that its abuse of power in the 1960s were legitimate in my read. If anything, these abuses were so gross that they've lent authority to any and every claim against federal intelligence agencies. If the CIA and the FBI are capable of killing American citizens in cold blood, often in elaborate schemes, what aren't they capable of?
Exactly.
Fuck. That's scary to think about.
It's scary to think about our military now.
Yeah, it is. I don't trust anybody in authority. I don't. I never do, because I think they're all crooked. Like they are. There might be one good with like 1,000.
Well, I know my nephew's a good kid, but he's a Marine.
Yeah, because you know him. Yeah. So that's what I mean. There's like a couple, there might be one or two, but most of them.
But
so messed
I
up.
did ask him. I asked him a question when he, first went to training and stuff. I said, I don't know if you can answer this or not, but he said, okay. I said, if they ask you to not tell things, and he's like, we're not allowed to tell. I said, but don't they understand the mental strain that puts on you? He said, oh yeah, they're full aware, but they don't treat us mentally. They don't offer any mental health in it. I'm like, oh, great. That's where I'm worried.
Well, yeah.
Because that kid has a good heart, and I understand his reason for doing it. His dad was in the military and everything, but
Yeah.
it just worries me, the future of society.
Same. My son wants to join the army, and I'm just like, oh my God. I'm scared.
And you can't really live your kids' lives, but like,
yeah,
it's a worry for them to go. Like,
it is. Like, obviously, I have to let him go, and he does what he wants, but it's just I'm gonna worry like crazy.
Yeah, and that's sad because there shouldn't be a time where someone that wants to stand up for their country that's a bad thing. I mean, when like with the Civil War and stuff, like when they had everybody sign up to do the Civil War and all that.
Yeah.
But now it's like it's too much of a risk. I mean, like the mental health toll that people go through. I don't know. I just think it's a worry.
And with all this knowledge now, with them killing their own people.
Exactly.
I don't know. Trust them even more now.
I don't even know how they can get into relationships, though. How do you go into a relationship? I mean, most people know each other, backwards and forwards. But if you're a CIA person or something, there's a lot that other person doesn't know about you.
Yeah, exactly. There had been a day in the summer of '69 when the major elements from my reporting collided on a single page of the Los Angeles Times. An August 12th article about the DA's argument in the UCLA Panther murder trial, Panther killings result of power play jury told, ran next to a piece on the LAPD's theory that the LaBianca killers were imitating the people who'd murdered the Tate victims the night before. Police see copycat killer in slangs of Los Feliz couple. The irony was that both of these stories were wrong. The LaBianca murders weren't the work of a copycat killer, and the police should have known by then. The real power play at UCLA was perpetrated by the FBI. I was tantalized by the juxtaposition of the two items, by how much of the news in them was flawed when it was first reported, and by how much of it might be flawed still. Manson's race war motive dovetailed almost too perfectly with the goals of these federal agencies and the DA's office. In programs Chaos and Quintapro, and in people like Reed Whitson, William Herman, and Buck Compton, I saw the potential for a major turn in my reporting, even as I tried to accept that so much of what they did would always be untraceable. Still, if nefarious plots from the CIA and FBI had eventually seen to public view, I thought I would at least try to see where my hunches led me. What I wanted to answer was this: how did a body like the Los Angeles DA's office exert its political force? If I wanted to be of service to a higher agency like the FBI or the CIA, would that be easily accomplished? Or was I veering too much into the realm of paranoia? I didn't have to look very far to see how the DA's office wielded its power. One glaring example came at the start of the Manson trial when, without anyone being present, the DA's office conspired to make sure that its narrative for the Tate LaBianca murders was the only one that anyone ever heard. This is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 8: The Lawyer Swap. My hands were tied. When it comes to prosecuting the Manson family, the Los Angeles DA's office left nothing to chance. I'd already seen that Vincent Bugliosi had no problem getting this to lie on the stand, and that Deputy DA Buck Compton gathered intelligence on subversives and militants. What I found next was evidence of more persuasive top-down interference by the DA's office, which took extraordinary measures to control, and likely in part to fabricate the story of the Manson murders. This is wow! For reasons never disclosed by Bugliosi, the DA's office tried Beausoleil separately from the rest of the family. I always wondered that too. Why?
So did I.
As I suggested earlier, it made sense to try all three of the murder cases together: Hinman, Tate, and LaBianca. Law enforcement had connected the crimes. Uniting them under a single trial would have made it easier to convict Manson. Conspiracy, since he'd helped torture Hinman and had ordered all three sets of slaughters. And yet, they kept the cases separate. I thought I knew why. Thrown Hinman in with Tate and LaBianca, the resulting testimony would have revealed that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, LSAO, knew as early as August 10th that the Manson family was responsible for all the murders. Remember, LASO detectives Charlie Gunther and Paul Whitley broke the Tate case when a recorded phone call from one of Hinman's murderers, Beausoleil, clued them into a link with the Tate murders. The only way to hide this early break was to try the Hinman murder case separately. That's just disgusting. Beausoleil went to trial November 12th, 1969. The prosecutor was Ronald Ross, a deputy DA in Santa Monica, who confirmed to me that the case had been tried separately under very suspicious circumstances. Wonder why. He had orders, he said, to keep Charles Manson and the family out of the trial. That meant the scoring a conviction against Beausoleil would be an uphill battle, since, after all, without Manson's instructions, he may never have murdered him. So how the fuck is that going to work?
Oh, it comes together,
Still.
unfortunately.
Oh boy. Still, Ross felt he had no choice but to obey. My hands were tied, he told me, when we first spoke in 2000. He'd recently retired after 30 years in the DA's office, and the case sounded fresh in his mind. He remembered the orders from on high: don't mention the name of Manson or these other people. Ross later learned that his superiors at the DA's office and his own investigating detectives, Gunther and Whitley, had withheld all evidence relating to the Manson family from him to keep their secret. I was pissed when I learned later that they had other evidence, Ross said. I was closed out of the whole thing. I really don't know why they did that. He could still recall the day the case first landed on his desk in early September 1969. He was just back from a vacation. The horrors of the Tate LaBianca murders, a month old, still dominated the news. The killers remained at large, and no one even knew who they were. Ross was struck by reports that they'd left the bloody word pig in conspicuous areas of both the Tate and Lawler homes. The Hinman murder scene featured such writing too. He took one look at the case and immediately connected it to the unsolved Tate LaBianca murders. You'd have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to, he said. He called in Gunther Whitley to ask him about it. Said, "Oh, no, it's not related. No, we can't find any connection between the two." He still sounded bruised when he added, "Now I think they were lying through their teeth." Well, duh. Absolutely, they were connected. There was words written in blood. All three scenes, they're connected. Oh my God. Gunther denied the allegation to me, but I found it believable given what he told me about the investigation. And if it's true, it shows that by September 1969, he and Whitley were conspiring to hide what they learned about Manson's family's role in the murders. Since Ross wasn't allowed to link Beausoleil to the family, his case was mostly circumstantial and, by his own admission, weak. After just 2 days of testimony, the trial was more or less wrapped up. Beausoleil's defense attorney, Leon Salter, didn't call a single witness. When the defense rested, Ross's superiors feared they might lose the trial. They needed more. At the last minute, they decided to take a gamble. Just before the attorneys delivered their closing arguments, David Fitz, the head deputy DA of Santa Monica, and Ross's supervisor went into a closed meeting with the judge, who emerged 10 minutes later to announce that the trial would be delayed for 5 days to accommodate a new witness for the prosecution. Danny DiCarlo, the Straight Satan's biker gang member, who'd moved to the Spawn Ranch in the spring of '69. The judge's action here were unprecedented. So close to it, for one thing, the two layers who just reared their cases. Ross and Salter had no say in it. Plus, as a matter of course, trials are almost never reopened after the defense has rested. It risks prejudice in the jury. When I reached Salter on the phone, he was still incensed by the choice. For the judge to discuss the case with the opposing attorney, being present is just unheard of, he told me. There was just something rotten about it. I never reported it to State Bar, which I'll always regret. In the trial transcript, Salter made his objections plain. It was shocking, he told the judge, that when you are in the middle of a trial, this young man can end up with a life imprisonment, that the district attorney has the audacity to talk about this case without my being present. That is, wow.
Makes you wonder if you're ever safe. You know, like
Yeah.
you pay an attorney or you get an attorney and you're supposed to have representation, but they're not representing him.
It's illegal. You can't do that.
Well, it's supposed to be illegal, but
You might think that Ross wouldn't have minded the intervention so much. Fitz was his boss after all, and they were both angling for Beausoleil's conviction. But Ross bristled at having been excluded too. In his 30 years as a DA, he told me he'd never been left out of a meeting about his own witness lineup. Ross felt he had no choice but to put DiCarlo on the stand. That was the first time in my whole career where I actually ordered to use a witness, Ross said. Where I was actually ordered to use a witness. The decision came from the highest levels of the DA's office. Fitz was taking orders from someone. My best estimate, Ross said, would be Buck Compton. Ross thought DiCarlo lacked credibility. The bike already convicted felon had decided to testify only because he was facing new charges on marijuana possession and having stolen motorcycle engines. He was, to Ross's word, a snitch, and it was impossible to say if he was telling the truth or not. DiCarlo was simply immoral, Ross said. He could have said whatever he wanted to say, and getting something useful out of DiCarlo on the stand would be no mean feat because Ross still wasn't allowed to introduce anything about the Manson or family, even though his new witness was a known associate of theirs. Once he was sworn in, DiCarlo relayed the story of the Hinman stabbing. He claimed he was telling exactly as he heard it from Beausoleil himself. He even included the parts where a man named Charlie, who lived at the Spawn Ranch, cut Hinman's ear off with a long sword and later ordered Beausoleil to kill Hinman, telling him, "You know what to do," but he never gave Charlie's full name. Then came Salter's cross-examination. "This person, Charlie, that you referred to in your testimony," he said to DiCarlo, "were you aware of this person, Charlie's full name?" Charles Manson, DiCarlo said it was the first time the name had been uttered in the whole trial. On the last day of testimony. Jeez. That was November 24th. Outside the courtroom, police and district attorneys were finally making headway into the Tate LaBianca crimes. Like Ross, Salter knew enough to suspect a link. The prosecution's sudden addition of DiCarlo only encouraged those suspicions. Salter knew that police had questioned DiCarlo about the Tate murders, and he intended to let the jury know too. Manuel Gutierrez, an LAPD officer who had been the first to hear DiCarlo's story, took the stand to lend the biker some credibility. Salter tried to get the information out of him. Sir, he asked, you were investigating the Tate murder case at the time, were you not? Ross objected. The court sustained. Your Honor, may I be heard on this? Salter said. At the bench, at earshot from the jury, Salter argued that the jurors should know that DiCarlo was connected to the unsolved Tate murders. I think we can prove Gutierrez was interviewing DiCarlo with regard to the Tate murder case, he said. If it was a small case, fine, but he was investigating a case in which there had been so much publicity, and they are rather anxious, I imagine, to find out who did it. But the judge allowed no further questions on the topic and that was the last anyone heard of potential connection to the Tate murders. Ironically, the addition of DiCarlo did nothing to help the prosecution. The jurors didn't trust him any more than Ross did. The trial ended in a hung jury. Thanks to Ross's candor, it is clear that the lack of evidence should be blamed squarely on the higher-ups in the DA's office. They need to cover up Gunther and Whitley's early knowledge of the Manson family as the Tate LaBianca murderers. Holy effing crap.
As a juror, I'd be really insulted.
Well, I'd be speaking I'd be speaking
I mean, I can't blame them for coming back being a hung jury, because you'd have to be pretty stupid not to recognize that something was wrong. That every
especially
objection,
when they interview or they bring DiCarlo in on the last day.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
And then when he goes to object, it's automatically sustained. And then they go to the bench, and it still won't be brought into evidence. Like, you'd have to be a stupid juror not to figure out something's wrong.
Yeah. That's warm and sticky nice. As they tailored the Himmon trial to suit their needs of the state, Buck Compton and Vince Bugliosi were also behind the scenes of the Tate LaBianca case. The DA's office knew it needed a momentous conviction, a sense of justice befitting the crime of the century. And Bugliosi, who aspired to power and celebrity, saw how much he could gain from some good publicity here. His office needed to control the narrative from the start, whether they had the evidence to pick it up or not. Even in clear-cut circumstances, a criminal trial is messy. Protracted affair, and once the verdict comes in, all the particularities fade from the public and their mind. In the 50 years since Manson and his followers were convicted, the details have become largely irrelevant. If people recall any aspect of the trial, it's usually the testimony of Linda Kasabian, the state's star witness. She served as a lookout and a driver for the family during both nights of murders. Granted immunity, which she should have never have been, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
Linda Kasabian, the star's witness, granted immunity. Kasabian was able to describe the crimes and the inner workings of the family in nauseating detail, clinching the case against Manson. And while many observers wasn't pleased that an accomplice to the murders would walk free, Kasabian took pains to appear more honorable than the others. Well, she wasn't. She showed remorse, which I'm sure that Bugliosi showed her how to do. She emphasized that she hadn't participated in any of the violence.
Don't you wonder how much coaching went into that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure he was right there. What hardly anyone remembers is that Kasabian wasn't the first one in the family to get a deal from the prosecutors. Before her was Susan Atkins, the woman who led the police to break the case and eventually convinced, along with the other killers, spending the rest of her life in prison before her death in 2009. Oh my God. Before Kasabian flipped, Atkins, an unrepentant killer, was the foundation for the LAPD's case and for the prosecution that followed. To pursue the conviction of Manson, the prosecution first had to bring their charges before a grand jury. They relied strongly on Atkins' testimony there. It was instrumental in securing the first-degree murder indictments against Manson and 5 others, including herself. In short, it was her story that made Bugliosi's famous trial possible. But I found was indicating that Atkins was improperly obtained as a witness. Before she or any other Manson follower had been charged, prosecutors colluded with the Superior Court judge to have her legally appointed defense attorney replaced by a WDA who would do their bidding. Her story, sanctioned and tweaked by the DA's office, and her planned defense attorney was based on lies. The entire narrative put before that grand jury should be reconsidered. Wow. It started with the end of the family. About a month after the Tate LaBianca course, that would bring them to infamy. They fled the Spawn Ranch. Manson believed the police were closing in on them. He also feared retaliation from the Black Panthers, having mistakenly believed, as discussed in the last chapter, that he murdered one, Bernard Crow, who was neither a Panther nor dead. He resettled his clan deep in Death Valley, at adjoining pair of remote barren ranches called Myers and Barker. They were sustained themselves through petty crimes and auto theft ring. It was this last that brought them to attention of Inyo County law enforcement, who tracked them to their compound and captured them in raids over 2 nights in the mid-October 1969. In Independence, California, the group of 20 bedraggled hippies sat in the current county jail. LASO detectives Gunther and Whitley drove 225 miles to the dusty town to seek out a possible witness in the Hinman murder. You may remember her name, Kitty, Bobby Beausoleil's girlfriend, the same witness that detectives had seemingly deliberately failed to track down months earlier. Kitty's parents had called the detectives to say that their daughter was in custody in Independence. When Gunther and Whitley found her, she told them that Susan Atkins had boasted of torturing and finally killing Hinman with Beausoleil over 2 nights. The story aligned with what they already heard. They asked the Inyo County Sheriff to take them to Atkins herself. Atkins agreed to speak to the detectives without an attorney present. They told her that her fingerprints had been found at the Hinman Keys crime scene, that Beausoleil had already ratted out her boat flies, but they got her talking about Atkins admitted to having held Hinman while Beausoleil stabbed him, but she claimed she never heard him. She was booked on first-degree murder charge and transferred to the Sybil Brand Institute for Women in downtown Los Angeles. Atkins' cellmate was a longtime con artist and call girl who went by Ronnie Howard. The two became fast friends almost immediately. Atkins was telling Howard and another inmate, Virginia Graham, all about her role in the Tate LaBianca murders. She had personally stabbed Sharon Tate to death. She bragged as she said she tasted the dead actress's blood. It was warm and sticky and nice. Howard was shocked. Here was a woman casually crowing about the biggest unsolved murder in Los Angeles history. November 17th, she made a hushed call from a payphone to the Hollywood station for the LAPD, telling a detective that she knew who was responsible for the Tate LaBianca murders. That night, the LAPD sent 2 detectives to interview Howard at Sybil Brand. She convinced them easily of the veracity of her claims. Fearing for her safety, detectives had moved her to an isolated unit. The next morning, more detectives interviewed her, and that same day, they brought their information to the district attorney, Ebel Younger. He assigned Aaron Stovitz and Vincent Bugliosi to prosecute the case. The Tate LaBianca murders had been solved. Yeah, fucking right. I'm gonna stop there for tonight.
Solved in the way they wanted it solved, but not in the logistic way it was supposed to be solved.
Exactly. Holy shit, I think I'm halfway through now. I can't even really see it. No, can't see it. Sort of. There we
Yeah,
go.
I can see it. There you go.
Yeah, halfway. Awesome. Ugh. I had a call in for my son. There's something else I'm supposed to do too, and I've already forgot. I have no idea.
Well,
I'll
it's
remember
not
when it's
eat.
too late.
Well, you can't eat the bread pudding, but
Bugger.
at
Oh well.
least
I just want to try it.
at least he was eating.
Oh, it was eaten all right. I think the fork's still in. There's still a little bit left, so the fork's still in it. It's in the fridge, I guarantee it. Friggin' kid. All right, well, I should go.
Okay.
Yeah. I got stuff to do. I can't remember what. I'll figure it out, but I know I gotta do something. I do gotta call the school, so I will do that after I get off with you and figure out what I gotta do. But again, I'll be back tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day at 7.
Okie doke.
I like it. It's fun. Gives me something to do. All right, you guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me and have a great night. Bye.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to